You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
You're listening to No Huddle Radio on the Packers Talk Radio Network, your home for in-depth and thoughtful Packers analysis. I'm your host, Gil Martin. My co-host is my good friend, Sean Tehan. In addition to this show, I write for the PackersPost.com and Cheesehead TV. Sean was a TV sportscaster in Minnesota. We're here to talk Packers because you're all here for one thing, and that's a love for Green Bay football. Sean, never a dull moment around Green Bay. Lots of stuff to talk about in a busy week. But first, how about a word from our sponsors?
Yeah, Wisconsin's own Ticket King. They're the ones who engineer our show for more than 30 years. Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packer fans, as well as Bucks, Brewers, and Summerfest tickets. Summerfest lineup just came out, actually. Check it out online. A lot of good shows coming this year. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com. That's theticketking.com, or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. And you can watch every episode of No Huddle Radio on Packers Talk Network with Gil and myself. Go to YouTube, type Packers Talk Network in the search bar, click on the PackersTalk.com link with the green background and the yellow goalpost. Click on subscribe, turn notifications on, join the discussion, chat with us live. And it's the last month we've been discussing coaching. And guess what? We're here discussing more coaching. And that's because earlier this week, veteran special teams coach Rich Bisaccia, the Packers special teams coordinator and associate head coach, special teams coordinator for the last 4 years, associate head coach for the last 3 years, has decided to step down well after really the bulk of the hiring cycle is done and everything like that. Now, obviously, everybody wants to know, you and I, including ourselves too, who's going to be the next guy? Who's going to take over just a unit that just never seems to be even mediocre? That's all we want is mediocrity.
I take mediocre. Yeah.
Yeah. I would strive for mediocriity. But the big thing here is, Gil, this is well after the Packers season ended. Their staff was pretty much finalized, and now you got your special teams coordinator who's out the door, your top special teams assistant, or Bisaccia's top special teams assistant, Brian Storer, took another job as well. Before we get into possible candidates and everything like that, Gil, did Bisaccia screw the Packers over?
Maybe. I mean, look, we don't know what was going on inside 1265 Lombardi Avenue. We do not know when the Packers organization knew about this decision, when Bisaccia made up his mind, what the back and forth was. We do not have that inside information. Ideally, you would have preferred that he announced that he's stepping down within a week or two after the playoff loss to the Bears, so that the Packers would have, for example, if they wanted to retain the assistant special teams coordinator who ends up leaving, they would have had first dibs at that opportunity. You want to have a full menu to choose from as far as who's available on the market. But I mean, part of me is torn. Part of me is saying, yeah, he kind of screwed things up by leaving so late. And part of me is saying better late than never. Because we all agreed after the season was over, we wanted to move on from Rich Bisaccia. So you get your wish, you get it a little bit late. Like I think better late than never is more my thinking than anything else. What about you?
Yeah, this is a change I feel like that needed to happen. More so, obviously, special teams it's just been rough. It's been very hard to watch. I don't know how much of that necessarily is on Rich Bisaccia, where it's like, because Brian Gutekunst isn't really doing much to help build the roster to have core special teamers, but he has put some guys on the roster in the past before, don't get me wrong. But I think it's better that he's no longer the associate head coach. I think there are too many situations where I think Matt LaFleur's been he's gotten a lot of criticism, rightfully so, of his game management skills and use of timeouts and everything like that. Rich Bisaccia, it felt like he was kind of the guy in charge of that. And that seemed to be a bit of a cluster at times and a bit of an issue. And Rich Bisaccia not having that role anymore is good. It's interesting, though, the wording is that he's stepping down. He's not retiring.
Right.
He's stepping down, or not fired either. He's stepping down, which leads me to think that, Gil, there had to be some outside pressure or just in general where maybe he heard enough from the fans. They're like, screw it. If you don't want me, I don't want to be here either. But it felt like this is something maybe where it was just a matter of, typically as a coach or a GM or a player, if you start listening to the fans, you're going to be sitting with the fans.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's very unique because he just stepped down so late into the hiring cycle.
Yeah, it's a little unusual. I mean, look, I don't think the fans are going to influence Rich Bisaccia, who's been around this game for a very long time, who is respected in that locker room. I mean, Keyshawn Nixon posting a broken heart emoji after the news comes out. I think that speaks volumes about how some of the players think of Rich Bisaccia. And I will say this, you alluded to the fact that maybe Brian Gutekunst and the rest of the front office have not done enough to build up special teams. And I think they've done more in the last couple of years. I mean, they've brought in guys, like Christian Welch and Neiman and Zane Anderson, who were brought in for special teams. And they drafted guys like Tariq Carpenter, specifically because of what they potentially could do on special teams. So they've addressed it more. And the way I look at it is this. Rich Bisaccia was not the root cause of the problem on Packers special teams, but he didn't have the solution either. And I think after 4 years, it became clear that he didn't have the solution. And, you alluded to, some of the things that went wrong on special teams were not his fault. And I agree. Some of it is execution. Romeo Doubs not fielding an onside kick is not
that wasn't on Rich Bisaccia.
Of Rich Bisaccia. But that being said, having, Luke Musgrave and Brant Banks next to each other on field goal protection 2 weeks in a row after, bunch of kicks were almost blocked, and then you line them up again and they are blocked. That's on Rich Bisaccia. Not having 11 guys on the field. That's on Rich Bisaccia. Not finding a kick or punt returner who you can trust year after year, and not having Keyshawn Nixon, one of the best kick returners out there, actually returning kicks. That could be on Rich Bisaccia. So, yeah, like I said, I don't blame it all on him, but I think that he did not do enough to improve special teams overall. And, he was brought in to be this guru, this special teams, ace. And we just never really saw that jump in special teams to average or mediocre, as you said earlier. We just never saw it. So, like I said, he's not the cause of the problem, but he didn't have the solution either.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, player salaries and contracts are public, but coach contracts are not. And it was widely circulated, though, that Rich Bisaccia was the highest paid special teams coach in football. And his units certainly didn't play like a well-coached unit and like a unit that did its job consistently. Now, it's just you put it well, though, Gil, where it's like, obviously you want the full menu. If he was decided to step down, you wish you would have heard about that maybe a month ago or even a few weeks ago before the Super Bowl concluded. But I will say, if this was like a head coach stepping down this late or an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator stepping down this late, I'd be a little more ticked off. I think you can find a special teams assistant coach from another team, and I think you can find a possible upgrade too. And going into that, Gil, there are a number of candidates who are connected to Matt LaFleur who could land this job and take over as the Packers special teams coordinator. Sports Illustrated's Bill Huber reported that Packers have interest in former Patriots special teams coordinator Cameron Acord. He led the NFL special teams unit in 2020 after Joe Judge left to be the Giants head coach. He was the special teams coordinator from 2020 through 2023 with the Patriots, but wasn't retained after Gerard Mayo was hired in 2024. He's been with the New York Giants the last couple of years as their assistant coordinator. Kyle Wilbur also is a candidate, former NFL linebacker. He was a special teams stud for the Cowboys and Raiders, played for and worked with Bisaccia. So I don't know if people really want any more people connected to Rich Bisaccia when it comes to special teams and overseeing a unit. But those are amongst the candidates I'm hearing. Who are you hearing, or who are you thinking maybe that the Packers try to pursue to to try to turn this special teams, find the answers and the solution to the special teams issues in Green Bay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of names out there, and we'll see. I mean, I've heard maybe Will Burnham, who is the assistant special teams coordinator with the Texans, as a possibility, although he's relatively new to the league. Luke Thompson, the Jaguars assistant special teams coordinator, is another name that I've heard. He's been in the league 6 years, has 2 decades of college experience. Or maybe you can steal from the Lions, their special teams coordinator, assistant special teams coordinator, Jet Motkins. He's out there. You kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You take a division rival and take away from their coaching staff, and you add to yours. That could be enticing as well. So there are a lot of names out there. It's early, obviously. We just learned about this a day ago. But overall, I think that, there are still some quality candidates out there for the Packers to choose from.
With the Lions, too, that's an interesting, if you poach someone from that staff, that special teams unit and all their faces has been pretty respectable the last few years. As long as Dan Campbell isn't playing with his food and trying to pull off fakes, deep in their own territory. That's not the special teams unit, though. That's a Dan Campbell call. But that would be a nice addition to have on the Packers staff. I do agree with that. Another team I'm looking at the world champions. Try to poach someone from Seattle's staff. I don't know who necessarily is a big candidate who's in that special teams room, but man, they were so sound in kick returning. Rashid Shaheed had a bunch to do with that, with the return game being so dynamic. But Jason Myers was 5 for 5 in the Super Bowl on field goals. Michael Dixon had some incredible punts, and the coverage was so good. But Seattle was just so sound. It seemed like in special teams, like they were so good on defense and special teams. As long as their offense didn't screw up, you knew they were winning the Super Bowl, which they did handedly. That's what you want, though. I mean, Seattle, their special teams unit, I was so impressed with how well they were coached. Mainly, it's just like, hey, we're not going to lose you the game. We're going to do our job. We're not going to lose this game. We're going to help win this game. We're not going to lose this game, though.
Well, if you're looking at Seattle, Devin Fitzsimmons is the assistant special teams coordinator there. And, you could try to poach him, promote him to be the special teams coordinator of the Packers. And as you said, their special teams did a lot better than the Packers special teams overall. And, I really think that is another real candidate that could fill in and be an upgrade for the Packers. I mean, again, none of these guys have necessarily been full-time head coordinators in special teams. So you don't know, if they're ready to take that next step or how they'll do. Some people are better as assistants. That's just, human nature. Some people are better as the number 2 guy. Some people are better as the number 1. But there are candidates out there. No question about that. And, one other thing I wanted to touch on briefly that I do think Rich Bisaccia could have done a lot better handling the injury to Brendan McManus.
Yes.
I think that was just absolutely mishandled by the coaching staff, and that starts and ends with Rich Bisaccia because he's the guy who has to communicate to Matt LaFleur, hey, he's hurt, he's not looking good, he needs more time. I think they really kind of botched that from day one.
Yeah, that was a big miss. That was one of the many reasons I was ready to move on from Rich Bisaccia at a minimum after this past season. Just the whole way, because McManus was so good when he got to Green Bay last year, and then you could just tell where it's like he was 80% on field goals this year. And we're going to grade the special teamers and the special teams at the end of this episode, but McManus was 80% this year. That's not even close to the top 10 right now amongst NFL kickers. He was, I think, tied for 26th amongst NFL kickers with at least 10 field goal attempts this year. And I think a lot of that had to do with the injury. And obviously the playoff game was an absolute disaster. That was he makes one kick and they probably win that game. He makes one, or at least they send the game to overtime. So that's the big thing there for me. But you wonder though, Gil, because we were talking about how, I think we were talking about last week or a couple of weeks ago where, going into the draft, do you want to draft guys who are maybe ready to contribute now or guys who may be able to contribute down the road? This is kind of the same boat we're in special teams, where we think this Packer team is ready to compete now. They are ready to compete for championships right now. Do you get a coach who's a veteran coach who has had experience coordinating special teams and been the head of the special teams units in the past? Or do you get a young ascending coach who you possibly want to take a chance on?
Yeah, it's a tough call. And, I think part of the equation would have to be this, regardless of how experienced the person is, which guy is less likely to get a head coaching offer or a promotion of some kind in a year or two, and then you have to start all over again. That's something I don't want to see. I would rather see someone who may stay for 3, 4, 5 years and really solidify and establish the special teams unit as much as you can have continuity in the NFL in this day and age.
Yeah, it sounds like there are other veterans who are available right now. Some other names that they're out there. Veteran Tom McMahon, former Bills coordinator Matt Smiley, former Rams special teams coordinator and NFL veteran stud special teamer Chase Blackburn. He was the Rams special teams coach, but if you think the Packers special teams were bad last year, the Rams were worse. So just beware of that. If you see the name Chase Blackburn, yeah, he was a nice special teams player when he played in the NFL. His units haven't been very good in the NFL as a head coach. It's kind of weird. It's like, like McVay, LaFleur, Shanahan, they all come from the same tree and everything like that. Those teams, all their special teams are horrible. I don't know if that's a Mike Shanahan staple, but all their special teams units are so bad. So maybe steer clear of getting a special teams coach who used to coach for one of those teams. But
yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's go get Devin Fitzsimmons from Seattle. That would be my number one choice for sure. Such a good unit. They're so sound. He probably learned a thing or two with the Seahawks the last few years. Gil, before we get to grading to the special teamers, though, obviously Bisaccia was the associate head coach. He became associate head coach of the Packers after his first year as the special teams coordinator. And prior associate head coaches of the Packers included Winston Moss, who was associate head coach for 8 years under Mike McCarthy. Bob Slowick was associate head coach for a couple years under Mike Sherman. And then Dave Hanner back in the 70s was an associate head coach. Now, this isn't really a role that every team has. Not every team has an associate head coach. So is there someone who you maybe like to get from the outside or someone you'd like to promote from the inside to maybe take this title, or should Matt LaFleur just not have an associate head coach going into this season?
Whether he gets the title or not, I would tend to think that someone like Jonathan Gannon would be filling that role, even if he's not officially given the title. He has head coaching experience. He is someone who is young and up and coming, relatively speaking, for a coach in the NFL. He's your defensive coordinator. I could really see him filling that role, at least out of the assistants who are on the team right now. How about you?
Well, I could see. So Jonathan Gannon makes the most sense, just having NFL head coaching experience already. Obviously, didn't go very well overall in Arizona record-wise, but a lot of players have speak highly of him as a coach in general. I think what I could see is he could have associate head coaching responsibilities without the title this year.
Yeah.
And if Matt LaFleur puts that on him and he likes what he has, he's going to add that title, I think, after the year. I think that's kind of what he did with Bisaccia, where he was like, yep, you come in here, you run the special teams, but you're going to help me with game day operation stuff. And if this works, I'm going to make you an associate head coach too. We're not privy to those conversations, but I guarantee you it's going to be something like that where Jonathan Gannon could be an assistant head coach in a way, but he's going to stay in his lane and he's going to focus on the defense first, but he may do assistant head coaching stuff without the title. And I could see if he does well enough, if the defense, if they improve or if they keep building off of what Jeff Hafley was able to do his 2 years in Green Bay, I can see Matt LaFleur very easily making him assistant head coach just to keep him away from a potential return as a head coach elsewhere.
Yeah, and if you give him that title, then it's harder to poach him and have him move on. Although if he gets a head coaching gig, obviously it won't matter either way. But, if someone else turns around and said, yeah, you could be our defensive coordinator and our associate head coach, that would be considered a promotion. And then he could take that job if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, possibly a lot of moving parts, but I'm cool with not naming an assistant head coach this year. Again, it's not a requirement. It's not every team has it, so I'm okay with that. But Jonathan Gannon would make the most sense right now. Gil, let's grade some Packers special teamers real quick. Let's just break it down unit by unit. Punt returners overall. It was Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, and Keyshawn Nixon. They all returned some punts in some fashion this year. What's your grade for these three guys? Dobbs was the primary punt returner, averaged 6.3 yards per return this year. His long was 16 yards. Golden, 4.7 yards per return, long of 11 yards. Jaden Reed had 10.5 yards per return, but that was only in 2 returns, but he had a long of 20 on one of those 2 returns. What's your grade overall for the punt returner group this year?
Look, they ranked 32nd or dead last in the NFL, so I can't give them anything higher than a D-. I mean, the punt returns were – if you're the worst in the league, I can't give you a very good grade.
Yeah, D- for me too. It's not an F because they at least didn't turn the ball over. So
right.
That's a big thing. Ball security was not an issue, fortunately, on punt returns. So
they didn't lose fumbles. They fumbled, but they muffed some punts, but they did not lose them. So.
Yeah, hey, that's the only reason it's not an F.
Yes.
Let's go to the kick returner group. Savion Williams, Bo Melton, and Emmanuel Wilson were the primary kick returners. Williams averaged about 25.6 yards per return. His long was 36. Bo Melton, 24.6 yards per return. His long was also 36. And Emmanuel Wilson, 25.9 yards per return, long of 33. What's your grade for the kick returner group?
I go with a solid C. They were a little below average. They were like 21st or 22nd in the league, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. The long return being only 36 yards. They didn't break any of them. We did see a few too many penalties on kick return. Yeah, so I give him a C.
I give him a C plus mainly because I felt like that was more of a kick returning unit issue. They would have some good returns, but then they get negated by penalty. Yeah. Anytime they had a good return, it was negated by penalty. And that was just it's been a glaring problem the last few years in Green Bay for the kick return unit. So I think Savion Williams could be a really good kick returner in this league as long as guys do their job and they don't commit penalties. That's the big difference for me.
I still have an issue with the fact that Keyshawn Nixon opted out and that the Packers did not press him to return kicks because a 2-time All-Pro, and I hate to say it, but he's not a legit CB1. He may be filling that role for the team, but he is not an elite cover corner.
I think the thing was where it's like I don't really blame the Packers Keyshawn Nixon for that because their depth was so thin at corner.
It was.
He was really one of the only. He was probably their best option on the outside, and that's not a compliment. I'm just saying, like, that was the thing. And a lot of injuries happen on special teams. You probably didn't want to put your top cornerback on the boundary in there and returns more often. I kind of understood that, but I do understand where you're thinking where it's like, hey, we need a boost here. He's a 2-time All-Pro kick returner. Put him back there. But that was back when he was not as needed on defense as much as he was now.
Fair.
So let's go to long snapper, Matt Orzech. In my opinion, Gil, you can depend on him. He's not a huge issue, but he's not anything special. He does his job. What's your grade for Matt Orzech? Solid
B. I mean, didn't see any mistakes, no snaps going over people's heads or, missing the mark. The snap was rarely the cause of any problems on special teams. Is he the most consistent guy? No, but he's solid. I gave him a B.
I was a little more bullish. I gave him a B plus. Like you said, when the Packers had the blocked field goals or they had issues when it came to kicking and punting and everything like that, it wasn't really on Matt Orzech. He did pretty solid. His snaps were pretty consistent overall. But yeah, sometimes he would miss. Not everyone's perfect, but he did his job for the most part, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree.
Let's go with the kickers. Let's start with Brandon McManus. Obviously dealt with a quad injury all year. He's 24 of 30 kicking this year, 80%. That was tied for 26th amongst kickers with at least 10 field goal attempts, 32 of 33 on extra points, but he was horrible in the playoffs. And a big reason why the Packers did not move on in the playoffs after one game in Chicago. What's your grade for Brandon McManus this year?
The key for me with McManus, and I gave him a C-. And the key for me was from 40 yards out and above, he was only 50%.
Yeah.
And in the NFL today, modern NFL, guys are making 60-yard field goals like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And if he's not hitting more than 50% from 40 and out, I mean, you know, he missed 2 field goals and an extra point in the playoff game. One of them was a 55-yarder on the last play of the half.
With the wind swirling.
Yeah, I'm not, saying that was a big problem that he missed that kick. But to miss an extra point and to miss the shorter field goal when you need those points the most in a playoff game, that did bring down his grade. But I'll even say this. How McManus handled the injury. And I get it. You want to be out there. You don't want to give someone else a chance to take your job. But the way you give someone else a chance to take your job is if you can't do it well. Yeah. And by rushing back the way he did, I think he jeopardized his future with the Packers more than if he would have taken another week or two to fully recover.
Yeah, especially because Lucas Haversack was kicking really well for them overall. He was. But that's the fragility of being an NFL player, but specifically an NFL kicker.
Yep.
Only one kicker on every roster. You're not going to, at least a quarterback, you got a couple quarterbacks on the roster. You only got one kicker, you got one punter, you got one long snapper. Those jobs are very, very rare to hold. It's very hard to hold on to those jobs. So I do understand you got to do what's in the best interest of the team. Be like, hey, I'm just not right now. Like I'm trying to get right. And you would have, if I were Brandon McManus, I would have thought like, man, I'm a veteran kicker. The Packers, they're a solid organization. I just got to be truthful with them. And that's like, and who knows how those conversations went. It just seemed like a lot of miscommunication amongst all parties. But I gave him a C- as well, Gil. I'm with you there, where it was a big step back for him after his first year. He was so good when the Packers got him during the season last year. But how about Lucas Haversack, though? He did a really nice job filling in for McManus, including making the longest field goal attempt in Packers history, a 61-yarder in the Arizona game early in the season. He was 4 for 4 on field goals, but then he was 7 for 9 on extra points. Those 2 extra point misses on a windy day out on the East Coast near you, Gil, against the Giants. What's your grade for Lucas Haversack, Gil?
I went with a B as far as Haversack. That 61-yard field goal was impressive.
Yeah.
The fact that he stepped in on short notice and did well. And like you said, the wind was a factor in those 2 missed extra points. And thankfully, the Packers won that game.
Yeah.
But, without those 2 missed extra points, the grade is much higher.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. I think he gets a B. I think he had a legit shot to possibly steal Brandon McManus' job if he doesn't miss those extra points on that. Even though those conditions were impossible to kick in. That was not ideal for a kicker. It really wasn't. But still, I mean, the misses were really bad overall.
They were ugly.
But you got to think though, it's like after he made that 61-yard field goal in Arizona, that McManus probably put pressure on himself to return. That
Absolutely.
They had to be like, because I remember that kick too. It was such a clean kick where it's like, oh yeah, this is like, if he's got the leg for it, this is going right through, and it did. And I think Lucas Haversack is probably going to be an NFL kicker. He's going to get another opportunity to be an NFL kicker again. But yeah, solid B. I think is very fair. I think the Packers will have him on speed dial in case things continue to go south though with McManus.
Well, I mean, he'll be in training camp to battle McManus, so we'll see even who wins the job.
Is he still in the practice squad right now? Is Lucas?
Well, yeah, they signed him to a futures deal. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. I'm not fully. I'm still trying to recover from the playoff loss. So
I understand.
One thing after another. But lastly, we saved the best for last. Punter Daniel Whalen led the NFL in punting this year, averaging 51.7 yards per punt, 43.9 net average. That was 4th in the NFL. Gil, what's your grade for Daniel Whalen this year?
Got to be an A. There's no way you can go lower than that. I mean, anytime you lead the league in punting average, that's impressive. If you do it playing 8 games at Lambeau Field, including some games in the cold, you played in Soldier Field late in the season also. I mean, I don't remember the last time a Packer led the NFL in punting average because the conditions that they have to punt in. He placed him inside the 20 with regularity. He tilted the field with regularity. What more? And he was a good holder, just as a bonus. Yeah. So what more do you need from a punter?
If Rich Bisaccia has a feather in his cap from his Packer tenure, Daniel Whalen's the reason why. Yep. I will give Rich Bisaccia credit there, where he developed Daniel Whalen into a really, really good punter. And I think he's going to be punting in Green Bay for a long time. I hope he is. He's that good. The only thing I want to see improvement on, and this probably goes hand in hand with the punt coverage unit, Gil, is just being able to pin more returners inside the 20 and force more fair catches. It seemed like sometimes he would outkick his coverage in a way, like us men typically do with our wives, Gil. So that's, and it just didn't seem like he pinned as many punts inside the 20 as he could have. He was 27th amongst NFL punters in that category. That could have been more the punt coverage units, the inability to get down there and properly cover and pin teams deep. But that's just me splitting hairs, though, at that point. I gave him an A as well. He's awesome. Gil, before we wrap up with some trivia, though, what articles do you have coming up online for the Packers Post at Cheesehead TV? Probably a lot to do with the movement in the special teams department on the coaching staff.
Yeah, well, I did address the Rich Bisaccia move on the Packers Post. Also talked about what the Packers should do with regard to Sean Ryan. Tough decision coming up there. While on Cheesehead, I talked about how I hope that the Packers do not lose a home game this year to have a home game being played in Europe. I just don't like that. It hurts the fans. It hurts the city of Green Bay. And I don't like games starting very early in the morning either as a fan. So, play a million preseason games in Europe, but the regular season games. And if you're going to play the regular season games in Europe, it screws up the bye. It screws up the players' routine. You lose days before, you lose days after. So I sort of addressed that issue, and fingers crossed that the Packers are not going to lose a home game to have a game played overseas.
You would think just the Packers, their reason, if the NFL's like, give us a reason why we should not take a home game from you for an overseas game. Have you seen our season ticket waiting list? The demand to go to Lambeau, I don't know. I just feel like Lambeau is the place to go to. I've been to so many Packer games in my life, and I run into people all the time where they're just like, yeah, I'm not a fan of either team. I just had a weekend to come up, and I want to see Lambeau Field. It's a destination. So if you take that, if the NFL, that's the one place I'm like, I know it's, they want to make sure they balance it out amongst teams, but it's like, you can't take a home game away from the Packers. It's just too many people want to go to Lambeau Field. It's such an in-demand place during football season. It's just, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Yeah. Gil, how about some trivia?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, in the Packers special teams department, the Rich Bisaccia era, it's coming to an end. Bisaccia announced earlier this week he is stepping down as special teams coordinator and associate head coach. Bisaccia was the Packers special teams coordinator for the past 4 seasons, tied for the second longest tenured special teams coordinator in Packers history. Gil, who is the longest tenured special teams coordinator in Packers history?
Give me a decade.
From this millennium.
Yeah, no, I am drawing a blank.
He was the Super Bowl coordinator.
Okay, so it's got to be 2010, obviously. Boy. No, I am definitely drawing a blank here.
That's all right. It's easy to forget these names. So it's like, I met this guy before too. Very nice guy. Sean Slocum.
Yes.
He was the Packers special teams coordinator for 6 seasons from 2009 through 2014. Of course, 2014 was his last year after the Brandon Bostic fumble in Seattle. He was the special teams coordinator for the Packers 2010 Super Bowl winning team. Bisaccia's 4-year tenure. It's time for the second longest special teams coordinator tenure in Packers history with Ron Zook, who took over as special teams coordinator in 2015 and held that position for the next 4 years through 2018. Now, the Packers have only had officially 7 special teams coordinators in their franchise history. John Bodemago was the first special teams coordinator in Packers history in 2003. Before that, the Packers didn't have an official special teams coordinator in their team's history. They had special teams coaches.
Yep.
So that's a big, just remember that, Gil, in the future. If you ever go to bar trivia or something like that, where it's a big difference. They were recognized as special teams coaches back then, not coordinators. Now the coaching staffs are so big, soon enough they're going to have a water boy coordinator, So that's the only way we're heading.
The get back coach coordinator. There you go.
Oh my gosh! Oh, I can't wait till the NFL. I can't wait for that's got to be that's the funniest visual you'll ever see. Is these big tough guys, and they're literally holding grown men back with a leash. I mean, could you imagine telling that? It's like, oh, you're a coach. What position do you coach? Oh, I don't coach a position. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I keep the coach on a leash and I hold him back from going on the field. Like, how do you respond to that? I don't know.
I'm sure there's the same way that people describe housewives as domestic engineers. I'm sure there's a title that they use for get back coach that is a little more sophisticated than what we just described. But
hey, if you get paid well though doing it, fine.
Oh, I do it.
Hey, just stay in shape and just be strong, and you gotta be stronger than the coach, and you gotta be willing to you gotta have thick skin. I gotta imagine you gotta have thick skin in that position too, where it's like if you're getting screamed at by the head coach, and the coach like, nope, I'm doing this for your own good, So that's all. It's by far the funniest coaching position I've ever seen ever. But hey, someone's got to do it, right?
Somebody's got to do it. Exactly. All right. Well, that is it for us today. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at Gil Packers and at GB Packers Sean to stay up to date on all things Packers, or to ask us questions. Or you can email us at gbpackersean@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Big thanks to PackersTalk.com for powering our show. Thank you for listening. Till next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.